Well, hey there. It is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast. And at the risk of annoying you, I'm here before the episode starts to turn up the volume on something I really want to make sure that you know about. And that is the Pathway to Peace coaching community, specifically that we're going to be opening the doors again soon. Have you ever thought, I really want support, but I can't afford it, or I don't have time for it, or the worst is if you try and seek the support of a professional only to find they have no idea how to help you? That's exactly why I created this space. Pathway to Peace is a community designed for special needs moms who are tired, who are busy, who feel like they're getting trampled by this life and are instead ready to lean in, rediscover who they are, find the strength and peace that they know exists. What you can expect. I want to tell you the price because I want you to think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't join earlier. $47 a month. So that's just a little bit more than $10 a week with a time commitment of about an hour a week. The feedback from current members has been overwhelming. I've been doing interviews, and so I'm getting to hear specifically about what the members are loving. And they're telling me they love the coaching, they love the community, they love feeling supported, and their lives are truly changing. I want you to be part of it. Today, what you can do is click the show notes, join the wait list, and this way you'll be the very first to know when doors open, because I think I mentioned it only opens several times a year. So don't miss your chance to join now. It's a great time of year to do this. And with that, let's get to the episode. Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hello and welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast. I'm very glad you're here. And let me give a formal introduction of our guest today, who is Sara Davis. And I have had the privilege of meeting Sara in person. We met over the summer when we gathered together to celebrate the launch of our collaborative book. Let's do the formal introduction, and I'll tell you a little bit about our conversation, and then I will bring her on. Sara Davis is a wife, mom of 2, and homeschooling parent from South Carolina. A former school librarian, she now teaches her 7-year-old son who is on the autism spectrum. Sara recently contributed to our book, The Courage to Raise, where she shares her journey of grief, hope, and how God has met her in both. She also lends her skills as an editor and manuscript formatter for a publishing company, which provides her with a meaningful creative outlet. Sara's family life is central to her story. Her son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2, and he navigates challenges such as being non-speaking, having MTHFR, and severe mitochondrial issues, with her family currently exploring the possibility of pandas. Her 9-year-old daughter thrives in her school environment, bringing balance and joy to the family. And boy, do I relate to that. When she's not homeschooling or editing, she enjoys reading, thrifting, volunteering with her church youth group, going on walks, and spending time with family and friends. Okay, well, I loved this conversation with Sara. I feel like I just was so deeply curious about her experience. And also, I feel like her relatability, or me feeling like, wow, I deeply understand about where you get stuck. And yes, I professionally meet moms at that space, and we look at how to essentially move beyond where we get stuck. But I feel like there was such a beauty in the way that she was transparent, but so open and eager to explore the possibility of moving beyond where she got stuck. And specifically, being stuck at knowing she's at that point of fatigue and burnout as a caregiver, but not necessarily knowing how to get past that, even when she recognizes she has a high level of support and people willing to help. I just thought it was such a perfect example of where some of us find ourselves. It's not as easy as just saying yes, although I am a proponent of saying yes, but it's not necessarily easy. There's a saying I love. It's simple, but not easy. And I just think she brought a rich conversation that all of us can find value in exploring, especially because we can't do this alone. And I personally just enjoyed being in conversation with her, both for my own personal growth as well as where she wants to grow and lean into. Okie dokie. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast.
Hi.
Alrighty. I'm excited for this conversation. I was just telling you before we started recording, I was like, I just feel like it's going to be like, we have all these different topic areas that I want to connect on, and the things that all of us are actually experiencing as special needs mom. So that's going to be where we head in our conversation today. But before we get started, let's get to know you a little bit. And for our listeners, of course, share how we know each other, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And just, kind of the basics, where you're from, your family makeup, your experience being your son's mother. Why don't you get started with that?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here with you. So let's see. I am married and we live in South Carolina, but we are very close to North Carolina. Like, I'm from North Carolina. I always feel like I have to put that disclaimer out there. Like, I claim both. We just moved into South Carolina a couple years ago, and we drive in and out all the time between the two. So my husband and I, we have 2 children. And so our daughter, she is 9 years old, and she goes to school outside of our home. She goes to a public school. She's thriving. She's a joy to be around. She's just so much fun and brings a lot of balance to our family, because our second child, our son, and I'm going to say his name is Gray, because you'll probably hear that a lot. He was born 2 years after she was, so he's 7 now. And we knew fairly early on, just the developmental gap was just getting bigger and bigger month by month. So by 12 months, I was like, red flag, something's not right here. And I was very persistent with pediatricians so that I could get him into some therapy. And long story short, our diagnosis is autism spectrum disorder. He was diagnosed at the age of 2, and he is non-speaking or nonverbal, however you want to call it. That, for us, I know that can mean different things for different people. And for us, it truly is non-speaking. We have 0 words. We might hear like a yeah every now and then, and I believe it's in context, but we're not 100% sure. So that's kind of where we are with him, and a lot of other complex medical issues that we've discovered throughout the years, because we've noticed that we feel as if he's in some pain. And so we're just exploring. We've had some different doctors trying to help us with that. MTHFR, if anyone's familiar with that. My son has it. I learned that I also have it. Pretty severe mitochondrial issues. So because of that, we do a lot of healthy, whole diet for him and the family. And just recently, we are maybe heading down a path of diagnosing for PANS-PANDAS. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Every day is a lot.
Yeah, well, it's like, as you're explaining this, it's like, oh, and the list of diagnoses keeps growing. And you're like, I don't know, I'm thinking you look back at the diagnosis at age 2 and you're like, oh, well, when it was just autism, maybe
Yeah.
we didn't know how good we had it, which I don't say that lightly, but it's like I look back at early years and I'm like, oh man, like that actually wasn't as bad. But
Yeah.
it
No.
doesn't, yeah, I don't know. It's just sometimes when we take a step or we take a moment like this to really pause and to say, wow, look at everything we are now dealing with. Like we couldn't have even imagined this at age 2, but now look at how much you manage. What was it like back when you had so you knew something was significantly different at age 12 months, but at 2, you get a diagnosis. What was it like for you to receive that autism diagnosis?
There was a little bit of relief for sure,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that with a diagnosis comes support. And I was grasping for that at the time. I knew something was off, and I was, like I said, waving that red flag, like somebody help us, somebody help us. And so getting the diagnosis, it was a complete fast avenue for, EEGs to be done and developmental pediatricians, and you can Google a lot of things about autism, but I will say as well, autism is so wide. The spectrum is so wide. And so I think you get the diagnosis, and for me, you're reading about how wide it is and you're like, oh, but I hope to this kind of autism, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
kind you see on TV, or this like quirky kind, and like, yeah, we got this. And that hasn't been our story as it's unfolded. It's actually kind of like what you were just saying. It feels like it's actually gotten a little bit harder the older he gets, or the hyperactivity. Like, are we dealing with ADHD as well? So I was glad at the time, for sure, to get the diagnosis, but also there's just a lot of grief that comes with it. A
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
I did not even know you could grieve something that was not like actually like deceased,
I
or
agree. Agreed.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think let's talk about that just for a second. We won't spend a lot of time here, but I did a really deep dive in educating myself doesn't sound like quite the right word, but investing my time and energy into understanding grief, both for my own personal need, but also so that I can support my clients at a higher level. And I think that was the topic that I was kind of most interested in, is really focusing on non-death grief. And because it's so under talked about, even something like divorce, right? Like that is something that is so deeply grieving, or that people deeply grieve the loss of the marriage or the life that they once had. And we don't talk about grief like that. Grief, I feel like, is put in this like little bubble of like, oh, you go grieve somebody dying and then you're all better, right? But I have learned to really appreciate that grief is not a process to complete. It's not a like, oh, check it off the list, we did it. It's more like an expansion of like learning to live in a new reality now that this part of your life is different than you thought it would be. And in ways sometimes we don't want. So,
Right.
okay, so let's continue looking at who you are as a human being. And so I know you as an author.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned earlier that we know each other from a collaborative book project, but also you're in the world of writing beyond that, or at least editing. Tell me a little bit more about that part of your life. Hey there. I want to press pause on this episode's conversation for just a minute to tell you about something that I don't want you to miss. On October 14th, the doors to the Pathway to Peace coaching community are going to be opening back up, but only for a few days. I'm changing the way that I run it, and this has been successful in creating the rich community that I have promised. This is the space I created for moms like you, holding so much, often for everyone but themselves. Inside the membership, you'll find live coaching, real conversations, non-judgmental spaces, tools you can actually use, and most importantly, community of women who actually and truly get it. But like I mentioned, here's the thing. Enrollment only happens a few times a year. If you've ever thought, I need more support, I need connection, I need a place to breathe, this is it. Go sign up for the wait list today so that you don't miss it. When you're on the wait list, you'll get all the details first, plus reminders, and of course, any promotional goodies that I might throw in there. Again, the doors open October 14th, and head over to the show notes where you'll find the link to the wait list. Look for wait list in all caps. You won't miss it. I can't wait to welcome you inside.
Well, I like to start with saying I'm a former librarian.
That is so cool.
Yes, I did
I
school.
love librarians.
Oh, a lot of people do. It's just nice, like we're welcomed people in society. So I did elementary and middle school library. Also had my public library degree, but that was the avenue that I chose, and I absolutely loved it. It was so wonderful. I did that for over 10 years, and so when our son, Gray, was heading into kindergarten, we just made the decision as a family that with him being non-speaking, the personal care, there's still a lot under that my son needs help with. And me spending just a couple hours a day with him in the evenings was just really taking a toll on our family. Like things were getting harder the older he's been getting. And so we knew that I needed to probably stay home with him. It was a very hard decision, but I will say that peace comes after obedience. Because once I made that, I knew in my mind, in my heart, I was like, this is my new ministry, right? Like this is where God has called me. I'm home now. Not easy. I kind of went kicking and screaming, but it's also been really rewarding because I have gotten a lot of time with him to work on the device. We have an AAC device that he needed a lot of help with, which requires a lot of modeling for that. Just showing him all that, but also like who I am in that. So with that said, 2 years have gone by and I started feeling a little lost. Like there's nothing for me anymore. Mm-hmm. And I love that job so much. I really miss the world of, literacy. And so this opportunity really did kind of fall in my lap through a publishing company. And I call it just more like freelance contract work, but it gives me a little outlet. So I'm editing books that would be doing like copy assist jobs or formatting before it goes to be published. And so that has been amazing to see God provide something for me with a desire of my heart that I really loved and I missed, but I get to do something for me. Because it's really easy being a stay-at-home mom with a special needs kiddo to drown in,
yes, that is a very frequent conversation because you said it so well, to drown in that.
Yeah.
It's almost like the word suffocate in that. Not to shed a negative light on our children, but it is a job that is never done.
Yep.
And I think it's the most important job we've ever done. Yeah. So it's not like we have walkaway power as like, oh, that's okay, I'll get it done tomorrow. I mean, in some cases we could do that. But, when it comes to like feeding our children, like that's going to be done today. So yeah, that is amazing that you have this thing that fell into your lap. And was writing something that you just always loved?
Yeah, I have always enjoyed just the art of storytelling. So reading and then writing. I never quite thought I would become a writer like this way, I guess, like my very first published anything being a special needs mom. If you would have told me that, 10 years ago, I'd be like, what in the world? But I'm thankful that I got the opportunity to share a little piece of, who I am, who my family is, and gray, and then encourage other moms or parents in writing that. So it was really cool. And that's how we got to meet, which was really awesome. Which I already knew you, by the way, from the podcast.
You told me that. And then it made me feel so like, what's the word? It just made me feel like, wow, that is so cool. I felt cool for a second, I won't lie.
So big girling here. Okay. Yes, you are cool.
Okay. So just be clear about the backstory. So Sarah and I were in the same collaborative book project. Us plus 7 other authors collaborated on this book. And it's called The Courage to Raise, The Heart of Parenting a Child with Special Needs. And so we all signed up for this project, not knowing who was a part of it. Then we're dumped into a Facebook group to connect. And she had mentioned, oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast. And what's interesting is I was a yes to this book project for a kind of a probably different reason than most. I'm not an author. I'm not somebody who has aspired to be an author, yet now I'm twice published in books like this, which I think is funny. But for me, it's about having a reason to come together in relationship. And that's why I went all the way out to North Carolina in person, is because I feel like it's kind of what, I mean, these connections are what drives me, what inspire me, what grounds me. And so I'm so glad I got to meet you.
I know, me too. I'm so glad we met.
So your chapter is called The Real Adventure. And
yeah.
So I want to talk about your chapter and kind of get it behind the scenes. But before we do, I want to start by reading the first like 1.5, 2 paragraphs, because I feel like you articulated an experience that I think a lot of us have had so well. I should have had you read it, but you know what? We're going to start with what we're doing. It was the last day of our family's week-long summer beach vacation. A trip to the Carolina coast with our 8-year-old daughter and 6-year-old nonverbal autistic son looks more like a relocation than a vacation, but a change in scenery is always welcome. As the 4 of us made our way to the beachfront for the final day, I felt exhausted and defeated, but not just because of the weighty bags I carried, overflowing with towels, sunscreen, and sand toys. Our time away had included multiple meltdowns from our son, including outbursts of aggression toward himself and others. His behaviors had become our norm, as they've always been his way of communicating due to his severe language impairment. Still, we never quite know when or where an outburst may occur, often leaving my and me on edge. And so I'm going to stop there because I think that's a great launch point to kind of hear about what inspired you to write this chapter and kind of dive a little bit more into that.
Yeah, so that was last summer. And yeah, it was a really hard week. It was a very hard beach week. It was that last day. And honestly, just ready to go home and get back to normal. Sometimes being in our own home is just the safest place, you know, being in a new place, new bed for my child is hard. All of that is hard. New place, everything, especially on vacation, because you want to do things. You want to, you know, go out as a family and try restaurants and do all these things. And that's extremely hard for our family. Now, on a really good day my son is having, you know, we might make it. We might get to do some things. But that week we had not. It was rough. But, you know, we tried. We tried to do things as a family. And so we went out to the beach. And it was that day that, and I get more to the chapter and I don't want to give it all away, but he did fall asleep. My son fell asleep on the beach, which was like unheard of. It was like a gift, a true gift.
I was going to say, and very welcome.
I needed it, you know. As soon as that happened, someone from behind me, a stranger, came up to me and approached me and launched right into a story about autism. And it was a little jolting, you know, I'm not going to lie. I was just like, I just need a break. But that encounter really was what I believe was a pivotal moment in my faith, because while I was talking to a stranger, for some reason, you know, she wanted to interrupt me, but it was an interruption, I think, from the Lord that I needed. And there's more in the chapter about it, but it's helped me breathe a little easier and just know that I'm seen by other people, like strangers, and also like my Heavenly Father. He's watching after us, and there's a lot of hope, whether that it's, you know, here on earth or in heaven, you know.
Yeah. And I think the message, again, not to give the whole chapter away, but the message that she really wanted to impart on you was that things will get better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us can mistake things will get better as though actually the things outside of us will get better. But sometimes, and this is my experience as a mom who has parented a child with cancer, and then because the cancer did not get better.
Right.
I mean, in terms of, just to be abundantly clear, he is not currently fighting cancer, but let's just say things did not go back to the way they were before. So the outside external circumstances don't necessarily always change, but it's that we are better supported. We are held in those spaces, and that's why things get better.
Yeah.
We learn how to cope. We learn how to grieve. And I say this very clearly because I had mixed it up for so many years. And I was really mad about it for so many years. I was like, how can I be grateful for this life?
Right.
I am not grateful. I am not grateful that this happened to my kid. But then when you recognize, oh, but I am grateful that this many people came forward to support us.
Yeah.
And so I, kind of am on a little bit of a tangent, but, for you, this encounter with this woman is like, oh, this is a little awkward and uncomfortable. And like, how dare you just come up and talk to me? But also, thank you for coming up and talking to me and sending this message to me.
Yes,
Giving this
I
message to me.
connected with her own Facebook and told her several times, like, thank you. And I let her know about the book. And, in our conversation that day, it was super
cool.
great. And there wasn't anything super spiritual on her end that she said or anything. There was something going on in my heart, because this is a process. Like as a mom, things may not be ideally get better to my expectation, right? But things happen in my heart. It's just that ongoing process of working through the grief, learning to support other people, taking the support from other people, and kind of just pausing to say, like, things are still good. Things can be good and hard at the same time. They can be both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And trying to find the good in every day and not, like you said, suffocate and all the things that aren't going the way that we want.
Totally. Well, let's talk about the everyday. And something you and I talked about, or you had shared prior to us recording is, all the support is great, but like it requires a lot of energy and time to navigate it. And that support can be taxing. So first, let's start just kind of what are you currently experiencing in the everyday in terms of your relationship and the tactical practicals of the outside support?
Yeah, so we have probably 30 plus hours of therapy that my son is in. So some of that is in my home. So I have people coming in my home. I have had to learn to let go of having a super clean home and all, perfection when it comes to what my house looks like or what I look like. Who cares, right? So there's a lot of support though that is taking care of my son and also helping our family navigate the behaviors and maybe a little bit of the why behind the way our son is acting. So we have that. We have a great church community. They're amazing. I've got a lot of special needs moms at my church, which is wonderful. And then a lot of people who just care, truly care at our church. But with that also comes with, we have neighbors that are the same and they love us and for us in a thousand different ways, whether or not it's getting my daughter off the bus because I have to take my son to therapy, or, asking like, can I just come over and sit with him and give you a break? And that's hard too for me. I don't know if it's more of a control thing. I'm trying to navigate this currently. Like, is that like, can't let it go, but I also know my son so well and I don't want him to like hurt anyone else or someone not be able to understand what he wants because he's non-speaking. But just navigating all of that. And like you said, like it can be, it's just taxing because you've got schedules you're dealing with, people who care. And I don't want to dismiss people that care because I love it. I think it's wonderful. Sometimes I just don't know what to say because I'm living a life that kind of feels unbelievable if you really knew what was going on. If I don't know if I want, like, do you want to come into this? So, yeah.
No, that's so understandable. I was actually asked kind of where I was going, not like super preachy, but I am curious.
Please.
I guess, what's one thing that you feel like this is going really well with how I'm navigating the support and managing it? And what's one area that you see that like maybe is not working well?
Well, that's a really great question. I think we have a really good balance of support through therapists. My son's therapist in a relationship is really good. I think what maybe isn't going well is I am feeling probably that parent burnout a lot, but I don't know how to really let people support me. People want to, but I just don't know how. Maybe to let go of that. Oh, help me.
You put, I think, the experience that so many of us, myself included, have. I know I need help.
Yeah.
but I'm a little stuck at how to get that. I know I'm experiencing parent burnout. People want to help even, and yet I'm not quite there yet. Well, are you game to dive in real time here? Like just explore it a little bit?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. So tell me your experience of parent burnout. What are you experiencing?
I think being with my son so much has been great. Being, I would say, with him the majority of the time. My husband works full time. He's amazing. I want to give a shout out to him, but he is supporting our family with what, wanting now. And so I am taking a lot of not just the stay-at-home mom duties, but then the caretaker.
Yep.
And so, for example, like my son doesn't even like for me to sit down. Okay. Like we can do this.
That doesn't work for me. I'm going to need you to stand up.
I wish I was joking. Like it is.
Oh, I can tell you're not.
No, like I will just try to sit down and he comes over and pulls my hand and just wants my presence to float around him and just be with him. I think that part can feel stifling. You just feel like I don't really get a lot of breaks. Therapy, when he goes to therapy, it is great that he's, getting an outlet. And then for me, I know I'm choosing to do some of this editing work, but I do find joy in that. And so I'm glad that I have that. When our kiddos do go to bed at night, I am very mindful of that as well, of taking some time, for myself. But I always feel like the clock is ticking, right? Like kids will be up before we know it. Could be the middle of the night. And there's just not a lot of extended time to let myself just breathe and relax.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so time being one of the limiting or like the hurdles you have not figured out how to navigate. So thank you for articulating kind of what you're experiencing or some of the challenges that you're encountering as parent burnout. Now let's jump to the part where you shared you're not sure like how to support yourself in that. So if you would share a little bit more about what you're experiencing in kind of that aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel on one hand, I feel like I'm doing what I can. I'm doing the best I can with what I have and with the time that I have. I think the root of it too is just in the position I am with my specific son, because I know everyone's journey is different. But like I said, like I can't even sit down. I feel like I've lost a lot of things along the way. Like I can't sit down and read a book. And I know a lot of this is motherhood in general. But, as your kids get older, you think things will get maybe just a little bit easier. And I see that happening around me. And I'm like, no, that's not me, because I cannot take my eyes off my son when he's awake. And then if he, like I said, like if he's at therapy, I feel like the clock is ticking, right? There's always something to get done. Even if I take a moment to breathe and do something for myself, my reality is going to come right back. It's coming, I don't know. Did that answer the question?
It does. No, I mean, I think there's not like one answer, right? There's not this answer we're going to find out there. What we're doing right now together is just like we're observing, we're noticing, we're being curious about the different aspects of both what is, hey, I'm kind of pushing up against parent burnout.
Yeah.
I see that. I know that. I love where you went to. And I'm doing everything I know how to support myself. The way that you shared that, I experienced that you're having grace on yourself to not like be very demanding of you should be doing better. It's really more like, oh, I'm doing the best I can, which I think is a great start. And there's this aspect of, you've put one foot after another to do what needed to be done. And now you're recognizing, and part of the byproduct of that is I miss parts of myself, or I miss experiences like, I think it's such a great example. Like I miss being able to sit down, period.
Yes.
And that's a good one because it's so like, well, that's very reasonable to like want to sit down. And where my mind kind of went, and just, full disclosure, this is not a full coaching session. We're not necessarily coaching. We're kind of just having coaching inspired conversation. But where my mind went is to really like separate out your different roles and identities and look through the lens of what it looks like to support you in different roles. So I wrote down caregiving as a role / identity, homemaking role / identity, woman, same, editing, same. Now editing's one, oh, that one actually, yes, I'm giving, but it's like a neutral one where I'm receiving too, because yay, there's some money involved. But also like it's where I'll call it emotionally neutral, where you would have to verify this is true, but it's not a highly stressful situation. It's actually kind of an outlet for you, is what I understood.
Yes. And I chose that. And I also know, like, you're juggling a bunch of things. I could say no. I know that. I could say,
yes,
I can't do this, especially because it's more freelance contract. That one, yes, there's like no pressure.
Yeah. And I think it could even be a useful model to recognize how you relate to your editing role, to borrow thoughts that you have about editing over into, I'm going to pick on your caregiving role.
Okay.
And on one hand, I totally recognize it's not optional, but then I think it can be a useful exercise to actually say it is optional in a purely fundamental sense. You could, if you chose to, surrender your son at the fire department. I know that you're not going to choose to do that, but you could. It is an option that one has in our country. And so when we recognize, oh, this is an optional job, I'm signing up over and over and over again, it can help change our relationship to it. I also think recognizing the caregiving role as an entity of itself, as in, if you were to go into chat and say, hey, this is a job I have, this is the requirements, this is the hours, what kind of, I don't even know the question, but what do you suggest on what the person that's doing this role at this level of time commitment, how do you suggest that they take care of themselves so that they can do this job reliably and consistently and with the patience that it takes to do this job? And I just think that would be a really fun brainstorming activity, actually. But it also kind of depersonalizes it, right? Like kind of when you have a robot speaking back to you with ideas, you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. But I also think to really recognize it, that is a distinct role from your role as a mom, and to consider what it really takes to support somebody that is working at this level. And I'll stop to kind of hear, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about as I'm brainstorming these ideas?
I love this. I love where you're going with this because, in fact, I have made a little bit of progress in this the past couple year or so. When coming home to stay with my son, because I realized I have felt more like this is my job. I always feel like it sounds selfish to say I want to sit down. I want to read a book. I want to spontaneously do this date night or whatever. But within a certain hours that my son is awake, and within those like therapy hours and all these things, I have had to really stop and say, well, of course I'm not going to edit during that time. And, I'm going to get off my phone during that time. This is not the time to budget our checkbook. When you do try to do those things, which I have before, in the middle of hanging out with my son, it just creates even more.
Yeah. Recipe for disaster, recipe for resentment, right?
Totally. Yes. So I think trying to have that mindset every day. I mean, I like where you're going with this, trying to really think like as a job, taking care of.
Yeah. So yeah. And then when you are doing your work, you're fully doing your work. I think that is actually very freeing too. And then I love your such real examples, because I do joke with myself and a lot of people of like, recipe for resentment is like, this power struggle of I want to do this and my kid needs me to do that. When we recognize, oh, actually, I wasn't available to do that thing. Like my kids are a full-time job. So helping you kind of be fully present for the caregiving role when you are, I think then making sure you look at the other side of, and being very intentional about time off, really more for the exercise of it than really maybe in reality, but like looking at your working hours, saying, okay, husband's doing this role of supporting our family financially. What are our agreements when it comes to my caregiving role? And when do I get a break from that? And, of course, vice versa. And just having that conversation saying, hey, like, what do you think about Tuesday nights? I don't know what your husband's career schedule is, but like, what about Tuesday nights? It's the night where I actually have a place I go to. I love libraries, but I have a place I go to where I get to do a book club. I don't know, it doesn't really necessarily matter what that is, but you have a break. You can sit down. And even just knowing for some of us that you have this place and time set aside to look at that recovery process can be really settling in and of itself. It can like almost like in an instant make you feel like, oh, okay, I can do this today because I know on Tuesday I do get a break, and gives you some certainty inside of a life that doesn't have a lot.
No, I think that's great. Great advice. I have experienced that when I have planned like that to have some time for myself. Or I volunteer in our youth group on Wednesday nights. And I always say, like, I am there for those children, those youth. I love them. It's also for me, like, it's been a great way to push away the special needs mom, walk in there and just be someone different. And my husband does the bedtime that night, or grandma comes over and helps, And I will say a lot of times that gets me through the week. Like, I'm like, Wednesday's coming, but I think other times it would be good for me to plan that where I go away and it's just me, or sometime alone.
That's such a great example though, because a lot of us get real confused, baffled as when we talk about rest as a mom. Because we're like, well, I don't want to go sit on the couch. Like, that doesn't sound fun to me. That doesn't even feel like it would be the thing. But like for you, going to volunteer at youth group is rest. It's restorative. It for you allows you to express different parts of who you are, even though it is giving it. It is, you are generating for other people. It has a way of filling you up, which I think is such a good example. So, and here's, I'm going to put in a plug for an organization called We Are Brave Together. I actually just got done speaking at a retreat up in Tahoe. And so We Are Brave Together puts on retreats throughout the year for special needs moms. They do some other things as well, but that's kind of their primary way of serving this community. They do a phenomenal, if I do say so myself, like they do a phenomenal job of bringing in speakers and host. The women that do the hosting are just like over the top and generous and just beautiful locations, but also very affordable. They have scholarships. So you're like, okay, if I can just get there, they do usually do 2 or 3 scholarships per retreat so that moms can access it. And yes, it's still hard to overcome the hurdle of figuring out how to be away for a whole weekend for a lot of us moms. But I will say, I don't remember exactly the numbers, but maybe 3/4 of the moms at this last retreat hadn't been to one before. And I can say with pretty high level of certainty that they will all be back for another one. In terms of what you can experience when you really step out for rest, but not even just that, but being around moms that really understand the daily demands of caregiving. So that's my plug. We Are Brave Together. And I think it's worth all of us checking out and investing in. And I myself am going to be going to another retreat for myself in Texas with Labeled and Loved. Now, if you're listening to this live, you probably missed it for this year, but go follow the organization because they do an annual retreat. And I'm very excited to be around this particular group of women and to, essentially be poured into. So signing up for that is something I want to encourage us all to do.
Yeah, I've never done that. So thank you. Look into that.
Yes, definitely. Because they are primarily in California, but I know that they have had them in Colorado. They just did Boston. I know they've done Tennessee. So it is not just California. Okay, that's my pitch. I'm done. But I want to talk a little bit more about church inclusion done well, because it's much more rare that I do hear it going well than, hearing that it's not going well. So I want you to be a beacon of hope for us that would desire a more inclusive church community. And so I'd love to hear a little bit like what is going well.
Yeah. So the local church that my husband and I started attending, I think I like to start with where we were when we very first got there, our very first day, because I think this is really important if you're looking to start anything at your church. I think there has to be a culture of acceptance. Much excitement that not only these children, but the parents.
Yeah.
Because a lot of parents with special needs, and we all know, like either the mom will go or the dad will go to church. It's like a divided family. And that has always like really scared me. Like, I don't want that to be. I want to go together. And it can happen. But anyways, the church that we found, I'll never forget the very first Sunday. I'm also very open. I encourage parents to be open about your child and your diagnosis as well. Don't hide behind it. They need to know what's going on. And anyways, the very first staff member that we encountered was honestly so excited to hear me say that my child has autism and non-speaking. And I honestly thought he didn't hear me. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm not doing my child with you. I'm going to drop my child with you. And he doesn't talk. And he gets mad when you don't figure out what he's doing, you know? They were wonderful. And they have been ever since then. Honestly, more people at my church know my child's name than probably my name. He kind of roams the halls. He has a buddy. So they have a buddy system. So recently they hired a disability inclusion staff member. And I would highly recommend that if you could advocate for that. This was kind of years in the making. Our special needs ministry continued to grow at our church. And when you have 30 plus children, and I say children as in children and youth, and adults that have special needs, you know, it is really great that there's someone on staff that is getting to know the families, very personal, like 101, taking you out for coffee, getting to know you, getting to know your child. I think that's very important. It could be a volunteer. This could be a role, a volunteer to pick up if anyone knows someone that has that desire in their heart. And so with that person, they are walking the halls. They are checking in on the buddies on Sunday mornings, Wednesday night. And it's just been a beautiful picture of acceptance and just the kingdom, you know?
I know. And I'm glad at least one church is getting it right, because it is discouraging. I have to say, it is discouraging because I believe, it's the heart of who Jesus is. And like, if you look at his ministry, it's like, who did he speak to, heal, hang out with? It was the sick and disabled. So I feel like, okay, so you hit on this culture of acceptance. It sounds like it was in existence prior to you arriving. Where, based on what you know, what's your sense of how they came to be that way?
Yeah. So, I mean, the church has been around for over a decade, maybe longer than that. And my understanding is, honestly, I think there's a lot of wonderful people there, just really, really, really great people. But there was someone who was not on staff, volunteer type of role, who noticed this person actually had a background with special needs or special setting education, saw the need, and was the one to start kind of getting the ball rolling with getting people paired with a buddy and talking to the parent. That's kind of where it started. So, and I kind of love that from what I know, that's how it started. And I love that it's like one person saw the need. And honestly, it's great. I mean, that just magnified, you know, because the energy of acceptance through that one person and then the buddy, a lot of times the buddies are youth. You know, we can learn a lot. Teenagers, they are some of the best buddies, honestly, at our church, because they love the children and they love the youth, and they're not really even seeing a child for a disability.
That is like a really great point. One, so my son Levi participates in a basketball league that has a buddy system, and it's so cool because it's like so many of these kids are volunteering, and like I think they're equally having a fun time as, you know, the basketball players. So there's that where I'm like, I totally see that. But now I'm even picturing myself. So I stepped up as a buddy. So I am all signed up now to be a buddy 1 weekend a month. I mostly think it's a good idea. I'm like, do I really have time for this? But I'm like, I'm so committed to like, okay, I want to be part of this. And so I've only gotten as far as doing an observation. But I thought at the end of observing, I wasn't really like necessarily responsible for anybody. But there was a couple kids that, how do I say this, just didn't want to do what they were being told. And at the end, and I have no idea if they had disabilities or not. And at the end, I asked myself the question, what is the goal we have for them here? Because actually there was some other adults that were like, here, Johnny, you got to go sit in the circle. And in my mind, I'm like, but does Johnny have to sit in the circle?
Right.
Because are we looking for compliance here? Are we looking for order? Are we looking to like just be with people? Because maybe Johnny's just not big on circles. And maybe that's okay for church because you know what? It's maybe not okay at school, or maybe it is. I don't know. But it just had me really question like, okay, so the whole reason for the story is like, I think kids would be much better at that job because I was this adult thinking, oh, well, you should do this thing until I kind of question myself. And that's why I'm like, I think kids would actually be much better at this job because they'd be like, yeah, let's go play, Johnny. This is a boring message anyway.
I know. Half the time my kid is literally like, I think walking the hall with the buddy, right? Like that's what I hear. They love it together. My son rides in the wagon or walks around and they're having a good time, just meeting our children where they are and not forcing them to like sit or be a certain way.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's where I think us adults need to maybe practice that skill, myself included, a little bit more. Well, thank you for the case study.
I want to add, can I add something about the church?
Yeah.
When I was new to the church and I heard like, oh, there's all these special needs mom, I was the one that was, at the time my son was 3 and I was overwhelmed and honestly couldn't even have a conversation about autism without crying a lot. And so I was the one going, where are the other moms? I want to meet them. I've been saying this a lot recently to people is like, create what you need. If you see a need, then like you try to start creating it. And I did. And so we moms, we meet once a month and we get together on a Saturday morning. And honestly, we just breathe together over coffee and just go, what's the highs? What's the lows? How are your other children doing? Because you can't forget our other children. There's all of us, we have other children that have needs as well of just supporting the whole family. But being with those like-minded people is so refreshing. And then on the church scale too, the church makes it a priority to do a Friendsgiving every November for the entire family of special needs. And so we all get together. That's once a year. The dads are in the room, the kids are in the room, creating chaos, which is beautiful. And staff and the buddies are serving us dinner, and it's wonderful. So those are just some ideas, but all it takes is an idea, and maybe other churches can get on board. There's some great resources out there too. So
there are, yeah. I know my own church has been looking into them. It just sounds like in that community that you have the experience of being known and being seen, which is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, we almost ended on time, but I want to honor our time and wrap up together. Thank you so much, Sara. This was really fun conversation. And as I mentioned, I was like, we're just going to go with where the wind takes us. And I think the wind blew well today. Is there anything you'd like to say or share before we do officially wrap up?
No, just the encouragement that you're not alone. I'm here. We're here together.
Yep, there's 3 of us at least.
We're all together in this. And that keeps me going a lot on some really hard days. I'm not the only one. So, and thank you for your podcast. It's been wonderful to listen to.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening. All right. Well, with that, we'll see you all in the next episode.